I'm a keen walker, runner, climber and mountaineer, and I love exploring wild landscapes, but I generally keep my feet on dry land. Today I'm going to do something a little bit different and explore the beautiful Kintyre coastline in a sea kayak. I've done a wee bit of kayaking in the past, but I've never quite connected with it in the same way as I do with mountains. I'm hoping to rekindle my interest here today at Loch Sween, just up the coast from the Kintyre Way. I'm here meeting kayak guide Will Self. Will, you were born and brought up here. You must know these waters like the back of your hand, do you?
Well, I know them quite well, and they're some of the most fantastic waters to paddle in the world.
So where are we planning to go today?
We're going to go out of this shallow loch, the Nivurich, into the main body of Loch Sween and head down and end up at Castle Sween.
This part of Scotland is hugely underrated. Encompassing woodland, scrub, moorland and these tidal lochs, it's evolved over millennia.
This is one of the oldest parts of the British Isles, geologically speaking. The whole landscape here, these lochs going northeast, southwest, and these hills going northeast, southwest, are formed when the Iapetus Ocean crashed shut 425 million years ago and thrust up a mountain range above our heads, higher than the Himalayas. Since then, it's all been eroded away, a lot of it by ice, and these long fjord-like lochs are partly to do with that ice.
It's incredible, isn't it? Because we kind of think of the land as it is just now, that this is its final destination, but it's always in flux, isn't it?
It's always moving.
And it's not just the geology under the water that makes this area so fascinating. People have been establishing a foothold on the land for thousands of years.
Desiree, we'll just slow down here and look at this Iron Age dun. Most of these duns, nobody knows much about them. They were defensive, but also they were status symbols. They are popped all around this landscape. Up on top of that hill, there's one a little bit further down. They can all see each other, and presumably they were communicating probably by fire. Just underneath, there are tiny little noosts where they would have taken small boats just like this until very recently. This was the way to travel. We're right in the middle of a sea kingdom, so we come in by kayak just as people have done for hundreds and thousands of years to these same places, and all the landscape links up when you see it from the sea, when you particularly go in a little boat like a kayak.
And perhaps much more so than it would be from travelling across the land, perhaps, walking or biking.
Yeah, these roads weren't here. They were tiny little tracks. A couple of hundred years ago, everything happened by sea. Well, we've popped our kayaks into just now, that's a little tiny harbour made by hands probably hundreds of years ago.
Oh, really? So this is actually man-made?
This is a little man-made harbour.
So I love exploring wild places. I don't often do it from the sea. I guess you get a really different vantage point, don't you?
Yes, it's completely different. You get that feeling of the majesticness as you do at the top of the mountains, where the whole world is underneath you. You still get that on the water. The water is underneath you, but you're able to move about completely freely. You don't have to look at your feet. You can go wherever you want. You can speed up and slow down, and everything is right there. And usually, as today, there's not a soul about. You are completely changed as soon as you hit the water. I've got a kayak, beaten up old kayak at home. I just keep hidden away in the irises. And I work from home, so I'm up in the office, and if it's all going wrong and I need to pull my hair out, I can just jump on my bike within minutes, be on the water, and have paddled around one of these fantastic islands and be back in my office within an hour. Having sorted everything out, everything's completely put into perspective. You'll just feel the whole ocean breathing into you. It's incredible.
Will and Desiree are nearing the end of their journey down Loch Sween. There's just one final calling point at the end of their paddle.
So this wonderful building is Castle Sween.
Yeah, and it's nice that we can just leave our kayaks on the sands here, as the Viking longships and the Berlins would have done all those years ago when this place was in its heyday. It was built in the late 1100s by Sween, who was one of the Gallic Norse warlords of this area, to guard the entrances to Knapdale and to the Sound of Jura. shortly after, Magnus Barelegs made a deal with the King of Scotland that he could sail around any islands and they would be part of Norway. And he had this cunning plan that he would take a warship across the isthmus at Tarbet and thus claim the whole of Kintyre. So Kintyre came into the power of the Vikings at that stage. So for a long time this was more a Norse castle than a Scottish castle.
Incredible piece of architecture and craftsmanship as well, to see a building that's still standing after all of that time.
Exactly, this is the oldest castle in Scotland, a stone castle in Scotland that's still standing. As you can see from the front of it, it's basically a great big square, which is the original castle, and probably similar to the sort of castles that at the time people would have seen on their way to the Crusades.
So, Desiree and Will have proved that to really appreciate this fine part of Scotland, you need to explore the water as well as the land. You know, I think it's time I polished up my own paddles and bring the wetsuit out of the cupboard. To find out more about the Kintyre Peninsula and everything else that's happening on The Adventure Show, follow us on Facebook.